What is up, everybody? Today you get 2 videos for the price of 1. Man, I wanted to do a video about just an update for you guys, and then Alan Kessler had to go and just like ruin an hour of my day. I'm done roasting him now. I'm going to get rid of this green screen. All right, green screen is down. I'm so hyped right now. All I want to do is spend my time roasting Alan Kessler. I wanted to give you an update, which I will, about this past week. But man, like, action in poker, especially poker Twitter, just happens so quickly. And the next thing just overtakes what you were going to talk about yesterday. I really wanted to talk about the Solve for Why podcast that JB Kerstetter was on yesterday, ironically enough, talking about women in poker, talking about the World Series of Poker, slating the ladies event in a time zone or in a time where PokerGo can't stream it. And I totally get it. Like the main event, they need to start breaking everything down and putting everything up for the main event because it's like a different production crew. But it feels like they scheduled it in just like the weirdest time. It is a world championship event. And I know everyone's saying, well, they're streaming all the 10Ks and world championship events. Well, the ladies event is a world championship event, and it's a big event for those of us in the community. So it's really heartbreaking. I hosted Live at the Bike, the brand new Live at the Bike. Park West bought the casino. So it's Park West Bicycle Casino, and then Bally's bought Live at the Bike, so it's Bally's presents Live at the Bike. And so they had some snags in the grand reopening of the show. I was hosting it, and then I got in the booth and I did commentary with Christian Soto, and let me tell you, that was completely magical for me. You know, sometimes you get into the booth with someone or like a conversation or whatever it is, and it is just easy and smooth. That's how it was with Christian Soto. The last time we did commentary together, ironically enough, in person, because we did do one commentary virtually, but in person, the last time we did commentary together was when the last game that Mike Postle cheated on, that I was in the booth with Christian Soto, and then Train, who you guys all saw the clips from the very last time I did commentary.
No, I said it doesn't change. I said it changes slightly. Let's say you have a flush draw and your flush draw hits on the first board. Now the math changes slightly on the second board, obviously. But that's all I meant. I didn't mean like math changes long term or anything like that.
Eric here, not worried about this math with top set of 8s against Berkey's overpair of 9s. Now a queen peels on the turn after it goes bet call here on the flop.
Christian Soto was doing commentary with me that day, and Matt Berkey was in the game as well as Marley. So it was just like a really nice way to do commentary together without all that negative stigma associated with our interaction. So Christian, you are the best, and I am happy to do commentary with you at any time. We just gel, man. And I learned so much from you. You're really good at breaking down spots in poker. So really loved that. Now, I don't want to be in an echo chamber. I also don't want to regurgitate everything that everyone said on Twitter. Everyone was kind of up in arms over the fact that the ladies event isn't being broadcasted. And then Jamie Kerstetter came on the Solve for Why podcast and was discussing women in poker and why we're not putting any effort into getting women in the game. And I thought she really held her own. I really think you should watch that episode. I'm going to put a link to it at the bottom of this video if you search for it. But one thing that I feel like they didn't touch on the most is how I feel like the majority of the reason why women aren't in poker is because men gatekeep the information. And when I say that, I mean men tend to study in groups. They form groups, they form group messages, they share information with each other, they study together, and when they go and play events, they rent houses together, and they're all in this space together, learning together and growing together and getting rich together or going broke together. But women are usually not included in those spaces unless they're dating one of the guys. And it may be anecdotal, but I have been involved in these situations where I was dating a high stakes cash game player, and he was in a group and they were all, you know, included in this information sharing, and I was always excluded, even though I play poker, even though I'm recreational. And I know it's different now, but when I was first learning poker in my 20s, I was studying a lot and I was really obsessed with it and I was trying to get better. Resources were really limited back then. And the guys that I played with were not including me in information exchange. So I ended up meeting a couple guys, Allie and Troy, what's up, who included me. But, you know, by that time, things had changed and you know, we just never stayed together. I moved away and they got married and all this shit happened. So during that pivotal time when I was most obsessed and most trying to learn, I was really shut out of all of that information. So I think that's a big reason why women aren't involved in that. And I actually talked to Berkey about it. So let's go to that. Okay, so I'm just going to take like 10 minutes of your time. And I wanted to go over one thing that I think like was, your podcast was great today with Jamie Kerstetter. It was like one of my favorites. And okay. I love that you guys gave like Melissa and Jamie like space to talk. And I think actually you give Melissa space to talk all the time. So I like that. There's one thing that I think, not according to her?
No, not according to Jen Jacobs. She is on a crusade to cancel me.
Oh, is she tweeting about it right now?
I don't know. She like blocked me and self-rewind in like the last 24 hours. And she replied to Jamie and said like, you did great today. I just wish he didn't talk over you so much. It's like, okay.
And I think Jamie did a good job putting you in your place the few times that I think you were talking past her. So Jamie sure. was, well, you stop. Jamie, like I think of Jamie as this really bright, amazing woman. But today I feel like I didn't see that. I've never seen that side of her because I'm always hanging out with her and she's just fun and lighthearted. Right. So it was good for her to put you in your place. Mm. She basically pulled your hair and you liked it.
Don't yuck my yum.
Okay. So look, I think there's like one big problem with why women aren't in poker. And to me, I think it's the biggest one. And I think that men are practicing information gatekeeping. And what I mean is that there are groups of men who are studying together, who are sending text messages to each other about hands and during the World Series of Poker, renting a house. And women are not invited to these groups unless they're dating one of the guys in the group. I've experienced this when I was dating a high stakes player in San Jose. I was involved in the group. And then as soon as we broke up, I'm still friends with the other guys, but I am no longer privy to any information regarding poker, group chats, any of that. I don't get invited to the house. I don't, you know what I mean? Like things have completely changed. And I think men practice information gatekeeping with poker.
Yeah, we talked about that.
I mean, I don't remember. I heard the whole thing. I didn't hear anything about information gatekeeping.
Yeah, I mean, she didn't use the term, but she was talking about how when she was in Rosarito, there were all these grindhouses popping up, and she was so jealous that she wasn't a part of it. And then we were talking about
that's one part of it.
Yeah, we were also talking about like how groups like Poker Power and WPA and things like that substitute for these, I don't know what you want to call them, communities or frats or whatever the fuck term you want to use for these little cliques that occur in poker. But yeah, I mean, obviously I think it's a massive hurdle and one that isn't intentional. Go ahead.
Do you want to know where I think it stems from?
Sure.
I think it stems from misogyny because many men look at women as just someone they're potentially dating or not dating, and they're not looking at them as a peer or someone that's worth sharing information with or that they can derive valuable information from. That has been my anecdotal experience, and I feel like I've seen enough of it in the poker community where women are brought into groups of men who are sharing information only because they're dating one of the guys.
Right, but so your points are valid, of course, but I don't think it stems from misogyny. I think it stems from a hierarchy. Huh?
It's your birthday.
Happy birthday.
Hey, Landon. Thank you. Oh, damn. Looking chiseled.
Young man, spry. Yeah, I don't personally think it stems from misogyny. I think it stems from the ratio, from the 95-5. It's going to be very, very impossible to be the woman who adds value. So it's not fair to compare apples to apples here and say like the people who are curating these groups and developing these study groups or whatever the case may be aren't being inclusive enough, because the fact of the matter is the same way that women are on the outs looking in, so are other male players that are in the same exact spot as those women who aren't privy to the information. Now, where I will say it's misogynistic is if you look at like some of the more strategy intensive Discord groups, they're toxic as fuck.
Oh,
But
totally. Yeah.
not just I mean, they're literally just like a bunch of fucking frat boys who don't know what the hell's going on
I
in
mean,
life.
that's a social construct that has happened because these are like young men who are playing online and don't have any social skills, and
Correct.
they're not having any relationships with women, and they don't know how to, they're probably
not just women,
angry.
though. But it's not just women. They are a fully homogenized group that absolutely welcomes no outsiders. So they are racist, they're sexist, they're ageist. Like they have absolutely all of the criteria to make it a very insulated community that is incredibly homogenous and very much born and bred to reflect who they are, right? Like, so the people that they're elevating, the people that they're rooting on will look exactly like them. And there's just a big level of comfort there for people who are antisocial and, to your point, don't really branch out and have actual functioning relationships in society, to feel at home with other people who share stuff or whatever from the same plight.
So I think every poker Discord group that is run by a young 20-something-year-old is Lord of the Flies, basically. It's
For sure. Great analogy. Yeah.
But I will very strongly disagree with you about being shut out of information and study groups by men. I do think it's based in misogyny. I have been playing poker since it's embarrassing how long I've been playing and how bad I am, since 2005. And a lot of the guys that I played with didn't include me in their group texts when we would talk about hands. There were 2 guys that eventually did that I started playing poker with on a regular basis, but I wasn't included in so much of that. And I wasn't included in like profit sharing, swapping.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do you think you were one of the stronger players in the pool?
So I don't think at that time any of us were really strong. And at that time, I was buying all the books and trying to study and trying to be good.
But I just mean from a win rate standpoint. Do you think you were one of the higher winning players?
So I wasn't a higher winning player, but I think I was doing well considering how bad the pool was of players, because I was playing 2 hours south of Fort McMurray. It was just oil rig workers coming to dump money.
Sure. But this is relative to the people that you want to be inclusive with, not relative to the pool.
Right. So relative to the players that I didn't know what I didn't know. I was trying my best at the time, but I think
isn't an indictment against you.
No. I'm fine with saying that my skills were not that good, but I think that I could have achieved a higher level of competence at that time had those men included me in their groups where they were sharing information. It's harder to get better at things by yourself than when you're with a group.
Yeah, we're in agreement. We're not debating the value here or the fact even that you were shut out. What I'm trying to make as a counter argument is, if your male self existed in that same environment, I would argue pretty strongly that he also would have been shut out, because you're who they're making money off of.
I don't think that's true, because I hung out with them all the time and we were friends, but I was the one person in that whole group that was excluded a lot because I wasn't dating any of them.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is obviously touchy because like male-female social dynamics aren't as clear as male-male or female-female.
No,
Uh,
I think it's not as clear because you and I were raised in a different generation. I think it's a lot more clear now. Talk to Landon. Landon is a lot more across the board, kind of looks at women and men as equally as I've seen anyone look at the opposite sex.
yeah, but I would say that you and I do too. You and I do as well. But Landon's not just going to openly invite you into his study group, and that's not.
He's not,
a slight
but
against-
this is a different time for me. Like this is a different.
Sure.
I just
someone
think
someone like you is my
right.
point.
I think
The barrier of entry to pick his brain, to pick Chewy's brain, to pick Nick's brain.
I think
is
that if I showed the ambition and I showed what I was doing and studying and showed improvements and everyone saw that, I think that I would be included now probably more.
Yeah,
but
I think so too.
I just think I honestly think the biggest barrier is the information gatekeeping. That's all I wanted to say. I feel like that was like not really touched on, or if it was, it wasn't like profound for me. And I think from my perspective, maybe it's like anecdotal, but from my perspective, the biggest part has been being locked out of these information groups that, and men help each other. Like if you look at guys trading crypto, they're always, it's the same in crypto where they're sharing information and the women are locked out of these information groups.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not going to take that part of a stance. I just see a lot more inclusion than you're implying. And I think that like what's being overlooked is that the male-female dynamic isn't platonic by nature. And that's not to say that it can't get there, but it takes a fair amount of work and it's not insanely intuitive, especially to young men who are like trying to date in an all-male industry. So of course there's like blurred lines there. And of course there isn't the same kinship that they would share with somebody who is similar to them.
Well, let me ask you something.
Go ahead.
Do you think that like most male poker players would be more likely to coach me if they wanted to date me, or if they were just thinking about helping me improve?
It's hard for me to answer outside my own personal experience, but my own personal experience is that it's not relative to that, it's relative to your ceiling. So if, from my perspective,
let's say given I'm willing to pay what anyone's rate is. Sure.
If you're willing to pay, then like, I don't think you have any problems getting coaching, but pay aside. If it's like,
I'm asking what would a pretty good poker player be more likely to do? Would he be more likely to coach me because he wants to date me, or because he genuinely would want to help me get better?
Right. And I think,
or is that even the right question?
No, because like it should be, is he more likely to coach me if I pay him or if I'm willing to date him? In which case I think pay.
I mean, both ways he's getting paid, but I'm saying, is he more motivated because he'd be interested in me? Because that's what I find a lot of times the motivation is for that.
If you're trying to get me to say that guys simp, like, of course that exists, especially again in a male dominated industry where dating is very hard. But I think that the overarching point that is getting lost here is what you're speaking to is how challenging it is being different in a relatively homogenous group. And we could say the same thing about minorities. Like, I'm sure that there are a lot of African American men who feel that they're disenfranchised and they have information gated from them as well. I'm sure we could say the same thing about like Latinos and everything. Every single disenfranchised minority group in this industry is just likely to struggle more and have a higher barrier to entry. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't actively do things to be more inclusive and work against that. But what I am saying is that the burden is a bit shared because of how easy information is to acquire nowadays. So when we were coming up, the exclusion feels really bad. Like the gatekeeping feels really bad because nobody knew shit about shit. And it was literally just whoever appeared to be a strong player, whoever appeared to be winning, that was willing to share what it was that they were thinking about, that was willing to aid in bankroll management or offer assistance to those who are struggling. That's a big part of survivorship bias. Every one of us has a story to tell about somebody who extended a helping hand along the way. And I'm positive that you're correct, that women did not get that same helping hand along the way. And that's probably a big part of why we see the gap that we see, in spite of the fact that, you know, the boom did exist and we had a chance to acquire larger numbers. But post Black Friday, post solvers, there's kind of no excuse to claim information gatekeeping. Like, yeah, you won't be a part of a community, but there's a very simple way to acquire this information, whether it's hiring a coach one-on-one, reaching out to training sites. Like, there are communities to
Dude, you say that, there's just so much bad information out there too. So you have to know where to go for the good information.
That's very
And
true.
every single one of my friends who plays high stakes, they're in group chats going over hand histories.
You can't compare high stakes to somebody who's on the come up.
How did they get there? They all
got there
were
through-
they all got there starting off at 1-3 and 2-5, and they were all growing together. I know the group of guys out here, they all started around the same time, and they all got together. They all started doing hand histories, and they're constantly sharing
Right.
information.
But their
So
experience isn't everyone's, right? Like, Landon's not that way. Sure, he's networked his way through a lot and he's had a lot of helping hands, but he's just been very aggressive in doing it.
Oh,
wasn't
I know. I'm not going to say Landon's story, it was him having dumb luck. Like Landon.
No, but I think he's very reflective of that generation. Like, when I look at my Discord and see the kids that are like 25 and younger, they have absolutely no one outside of Discords, and they're just in 30 of them. So they are the ones who are data farming, they're information collecting, they're running all of their own sims, their own scripts. Like, they're sharp. They're just like putting in endless fucking work. And, you know, in a big way, they could claim information gatekeeping as well, but it's not. They're just antisocial. And that's a choice. Whereas, like, for women, they don't have that choice. Right. And then they also have the stigma of, like, if they are like Landon and do a good job of networking, now they have this stigma over their head that they're just trying to ladder. Right. So, like, a lot of what you say has a ton of validity. I just don't want it to get muddled with the idea that this is an intentional misogynistic collective thing within the community. I think
Does it matter at this point if it is intentional or not? Does it matter?
I think to some degree, yes, because if it's intentional, the solution actually is probably easier than if it's unintentional. Right? Because, like, if it's intentional, then the easiest solution is to just—
It's easier to solve if it's unintentional. Then you just get
see,
them
I
to be
disagree.
aware of it. If it's intentional, why would they want to change?
They don't have to change. That's the whole point. If it's unintentional, or sorry, if it's if it's intentional, then you just work around it, right? You just say, okay, well, we don't need your think tank. We'll create other think tanks. And now poker power just comes in and usurps them. And a million women suddenly have access to information, et cetera, et cetera. But if it's unintentional, now you do have to educate the market. And that's an incredibly big task, right? We see businesses fail all the time when their marketing plan is in need of education. I think that, you know, it just kind of being a byproduct of there just not being that many women involved. And when they do socially enter circles, like, it's hard as a guy to not be on guard and wonder, like, if you're being manipulated for information farming, right? It kind of does work both ways. And not saying that it's unfair to us by any stretch of the imagination. Of course it's not, but it's something we have to be leery about. Not everybody has great intentions.
I'll give you that a little bit, but I think that the problem is not the woman trying to ladder up or gold dig or whatever it is. Like, it is typically women who are trying to be in poker are left out of most of these groups. But
I think the barrier of entry is high. I agree with you.
That's all I wanted to bug you about. I know you've had a long day, and I know you've talked about this endlessly on your podcast. So I appreciate you jumping on with me for a few minutes.
No problem.
Glad to see you on Live at the Bike. I'm talking about that too.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate that you cut out right when you were telling me happy birthday. So that was good. Okay. We all saw the commercial that Jamie Kerstetter is in, and it is phenomenal.
When you play poker, it's not just a game. It's the turn of one card, the next bet, and winner takes all. When I'm in Central Florida, I know where some of the best players and pros want to play. From fast action to major tournaments, it's all happening here at Daytona Beach and Orange City. I'm Jamie Kerstetter, and I play here. How's your game?
It was quite awkward, to say the least.
Good for her for shooting her shot, you know?
She was not shy.
She was clothed when she went into your bathroom?
Yeah, but she was what's a polite word these days for a gold digger?
Ah, the digger of the gold.
A thought. She was a thought. Is that what we're calling them these days?
Look, let a girl do what she needs to do, you know?
Sure.
I can't hate it. Can't hate her game. I mean, did you at least see if it was worth the money?
No, I was not into it. Not one bit.